Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic day. And this is part one of a three-part series of me and my brother ranking all of the live-action Star Wars movies. We went through the movies by order of release, starting with the original trilogy, the prequel trilogy, and then we kind of lumped the sequel trilogy and all the other Disney movies all together. And part one is going through the original trilogy. So 4, A New Hope, 5, Empire Strikes Back, and 6, Return of the Jedi. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do end up liking it, please like the video. It'll help me out a lot. And subscribe to my channel so you can know when the next couple parts come out. Enjoy.
But I was going into Tosche Station to pick up some power converters.
I won't go into full detail because with how many movies? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 movies. That could get long for two people explaining it. All right, so I got my brother Wade here.
Hey, how's it going?
And we're gonna go through each of these Star Wars movies, just the live action movies as of right now, and rating them on our tier list, this side being me and then this side being him. And we're just going to go through chronologically, I guess not chronologically, time of release.
Released chronologically.
Yes, chronologically, yes, words. And I'm kind of curious how different they'll seem, because I was hype on Last Jedi when it came out, and I know you weren't so hype on it. But my opinions on that has changed a little bit since then, so I'm curious how similar or different our lists are going to be.
Yeah, I'm curious too because, I mean, it might be slightly nostalgia of as time goes by of how my ratings go, but every minute that passes, the sequel trilogy gets worse and worse in my mind.
Very true.
And at first, so after Force Awakens, I mean, I guess I'll be real brief since we'll get into it, but Force Awakens comes out, and it's like, oh, I see what they're doing, and I understand, like, okay, this is a very heavy nod to the first one, and I understand that, but this one worked. Like, this worked.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second and third one, it just, we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
We'll get there, yeah. And it's possible, if this gets views or likes, that we could do other stuff. Hell, maybe we'll do it anyway. Maybe like Mandalorian episodes, Clone Wars series, episodes, or, just stuff like that. But I feel like the actual movies are a good foundation to start.
Good jumping start.
Yes, for sure. And I already know that I'm probably going to rank prequels higher than you will just because I grew up on the prequels and you didn't.
Yes, I think technically we're both millennials, but I'm at the high end of millennials and you're at the low end. So
yeah,
there's still quite a difference, even though we probably are still slotted in the millennial category.
Yeah, and I feel like every other week they kind of change like what people are technically considered age-wise, and it's weird.
Yes, that is also true. I'm ready to get started. It'll be interesting to see where we line up at the end.
For sure. All right, so starting off with episode 4, A New Hope, the first movie released in 1977, right? I think that's when it was released.
That sounds right.
So I think I'm gonna put episode 4. I mean, it has to be an S tier, right? It's like the Star Wars movie, and even if all these other movies didn't come out, it's a perfect standalone beginning to end movie. And it's just, I think the only thing with this is comparing the action and just overall quality of the film is much less compared to every other movie, either one because of budget or two because of the time. So I think that kind of hurts it a little bit, but overall it's such a good movie with the introduction of Luke and then his introduction into Jedi and the whole story with him and Obi-Wan, and then obviously meeting Leia and Han, and just meeting that group of characters and developing them in general throughout one movie was spectacular in my opinion.
I mean, I agree. Like, Star Wars, as it was originally called, it was just called Star Wars. It wasn't labeled The New Hope until the other one started coming out.
Yeah.
It is a very, so the thing is that type of story where someone is set off on a quest, meets up, finds people, they become friends, and they have to accomplish a task together. Like, that is not a new story. Like, that is an old story. Like, that's been told far before William Shakespeare, and it'll be told far after we're both dead. However, the way it's done, the twist of the sci-fi element, it is a very good movie. It is. Now, we'll get into it as we go on to the next movie, but I put it as an insanely good movie.
Okay.
It is, as you said, the quintessential way to start a franchise, if that's a plan. And also, if none of the movies happened after this, if it was just Star Wars, it would still be a good film.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I don't even know, obviously, because I'm only 24. I don't understand what it was like to watch this in theaters, and neither do you. But I couldn't imagine watching this in theaters and hearing like these sound effects of like the lasers and just like how they got all the sound effects is kind of crazy. And it's always so interesting to like go back and just like watch videos on people either describing how they got the sound design or just about the sound design in general, like getting the lasers and the lightsabers and all that stuff, which is incredible because yeah. And then just like everything that is built off of this movie and like all the production departments like ILM, and I think even Pixar was created from Lucasfilm or something like that, I believe. But yeah, it was like the stepping stone into an insane world and just moving the movie industry forward in general.
Yeah, I mean, at that time, it was a huge advancement in the technology that was used in movies. And I mean, it's been said before, and no one, and anyone who's watching this, who knows where we're getting into, everyone has seen other people say that they even hate the remastered versions of Star Wars because George Lucas just keeps putting CGI stuff in, and that just takes, in like 1990 CGI is very bad CGI, and it's just we didn't want that in there as an enhancement, quote unquote, in the movie on the remaster. That's why the first one is so good for you when you take it into consideration the time. There is no CGI, there is no special effects really that weren't practical effects.
Yeah.
The story of how they shot the Death Star, how they're going down the valley to get the bomb off on the Death Star, like them doing that is mind-blowing for filmmakers back then, and that's why it is a very good movie in my opinion.
Oh yeah. And real quickly before we continue on Star Wars Episode 4 forever, just like going back at behind the scenes and looking at all the miniatures and stuff that they created to either just blow up like TIE fighters to get shots of, like all that time and effort to just have something blown up is insane.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
All right, so next up is Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, which is a movie that a lot of people consider to be the best Star Wars movie.
It is the best Star Wars movie.
And
I'll say it right now. It's the best Star Wars.
Yes, I agree. I'll put yours up there too. Yes,
it's S tier. It is S tier. That's
absolutely
the only reason for me A New Hope is not S tier, because as good as A New Hope is, in my opinion, Empire Strikes Back is far superior than that. So I can't have something that is far superior than another movie be in the same tier. Even though
That's fair.
I think these two are probably the best movies out of the entire Star Wars series. The first two. Spoiler alert, I guess, for the people watching. But I mean, Empire Strikes Back is an absolutely brilliant movie. It is. They built off of the action from the first one, and they made it more intricate. And I will defend the original trilogy to the death to anyone who says the prequels are better because lightsaber fights are cooler. That is such an asinine argument on why a movie's better, is because, well, the Phantom Menace has Darth Maul and his lightsaber fights are really cool. Okay, I'll grant you that. That is. It's very true. But that is by no means comes close to the sequel, the original trilogy, and just everything that's behind it. Like when they're squaring off Luke and Darth Vader, and it's right at the start of the square off. It's all dark and just gives you this like something bad is about to happen feeling, and you're like, I don't like this is a movie. Like the good guys win, but even at that point, you're like, I don't know how they're gonna get out of here.
Yeah.
And they don't get out of there as one piece. Luke loses a hand.
Yeah.
And it's revealed he's been fighting his dad.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of my favorite pieces of like little videos, they're on TikTok now, they're on Twitter every once in a while, is parents showing their kids the original trilogy when they're like 7 or 6. Like those and they always film it when the kid finds out that Darth Vader is his dad, and every little kid is just blown away. Like that like I am for sure 100% going to do that with my kids. I'm going to show them the movies in release order, as everyone should, not in chronological of where the movies take place. You always show them in release order. That's a stance I also take. And that the way it builds up to that climax in Empire Strikes Back, when Darth Vader reveals he is the father of Luke. Like, all-time movie scene. Like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, you talk about that scene, and I believe it came out, what, 79?
I think it came out 80, and then Return came out 83.
Okay, but like, just how impactful that movie is. Like, people still quote it.
Quote it wrongly, yeah.
Incorrectly, yeah. But like, I mean, that scene itself is in like Tommy Boy. In one of the opening scenes of Tommy Boy's saying "I am your father" into a fan. He's like that's how massive of a moment this was.
Uh-huh.
And it's just like, I mean, Empire Strikes Back is one of the best movies ever made, period, and it is the best Star Wars movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And for like all the reasons you said, like just the quality of the movie is like stars above episode 4 in my opinion. The twist with Vader being Luke's father, that being like a whole thing. And actually one thing that kind of makes me think of is I think I saw a video about how David Prowse, who was the actor of Darth Vader, not the voice, he was the actor, and in an interview in 1980 or whatever, he said that, oh, and you find out that Darth Vader is Luke's father. And it's just kind of crazy to think about how that would be so much different now.
Yeah.
With like just internet and the culture in general. Like even like things get leaked, people work to leak things, which is kind of crazy, but that's a whole different subject.
Kind of to go off of that, just at this point in time today, it's getting blown up on the internet, but oh god, I forget her first name. Olsen, who plays Wanda.
Oh, Elizabeth Olsen?
Elizabeth Olsen, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So she was asked, because it's a Disney series, is like, so the interviewer asked her something like, is there going to be a Luke Skywalker showing up at the end of Mandalorian type of scene in WandaVision? And she replies yes. Okay.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then instantly people are misquoting her and saying that they're saying that is saying that there's a Luke Skywalker type of twist in WandaVision, where there's been people talking about the kind of twist that's going to happen in WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, just her saying yes to a question, it's within 12 hours, it's everywhere, and everyone assumes she's like adamant that there's a Luke Skywalker at the end of Mando season 2 twist.
Yeah. Yep.
When all she said was yes.
Yeah, it's kind of insane how everything gets construed and changed just down the grapevine from news story to news story and just from person to person. But yeah, going back to like one of the main things that I noticed in Empire compared to A New Hope, because I went back and watched like all the movies like I don't know, probably like a couple months ago, but like one of the main things I noticed was like you said, the quality, like I said before and you did as well, the quality of the effects. Like if you go from the Star Destroyer Millennium Falcon chase scene in 4 to the TIE Fighter Star Destroyer chase thing through the asteroid field in 5, the quality is insane how different it is. In 4, the Millennium Falcon's slightly moving to the left, which is mentioned in the Family Guy rendition of it. And then in episode 5, they're doing corkscrews and U-turns and loop-de-loops through an asteroid field. It's kind of crazy how big of a jump there was in quality.
I mean, all you have to do is look at the budget of the 2 films.
Yeah.
Like, Star Wars A New Hope was kind of like a passion project for George Lucas, and then it was so successful that he got the bag for Strike Empire, and you could tell, and he wasn't out of his element yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when I went back through watching the movies, I kind of noticed that in episode 5, in the cave scene, that's the first time we like see the use of a force pull or push, I believe, because you don't really see anything force-esque in 4. It's just like, oh, you use the force to predict things to like pilot better, I guess. And then like, ooh, you can like kind of make a noise over there for stormtroopers to look at so you can sneak by. That's basically the only force things that you see that I can think of off the top of my head. And then in 5, immediately introduces Luke pulling the lightsaber out of the snow to cut himself free.
And it's a little broader discussion, and we'll get to it when we start wrapping things up. But the providing fans and audience members the knowledge of what the Force is so well done in the original trilogy. It's just so well done where everything's like, whoa, that's really cool. When it's simply Luke struggles. When you take into account of all the Star Wars media, from all the movies, the video games, the TV series, the animated shows, like force pulling a lightsaber out of the snow, like that's child's play. But at that point in time, that was amazing. Like and I think that's just as I said, a broader discussion of how force is used as a storytelling element in the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think we kind of covered grounds on why Empire is, like we said, spoiler, it's the best movie, easily. No, maybe not easily. Some people might. Some people really like 3, and we'll get to that when we get to the prequels in episode 3, and
yes,
even
but
4
they're
better.
wrong,
Their opinion is wrong.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. I think this one's kind of hard because there's like it's like the original trilogy, and it's the finale of that, which is really nice, but I'm gonna put it at very good.
Okay.
I think obviously it's a good movie. It's good wrap up to the original trilogy, but I think it gets a little slow with the Ewok stuff, in my opinion. It's not as like fast and as entertaining as 4 and 5 were in like, I guess, those like similar parts of the movie. So it gets like a little slow for me. The beginning is really nice. And even though this kind of got not necessarily retconned, but proven why it happened, the way Boba Fett dies is kind of sad in episode 6. And then it takes until basically Mandalorian to figure out, like, oh, okay, I guess when you just hit the jetpack, it kind of flares off and does its own thing sometimes if you just hit it wrong. But I'm sure it was also explained more in like comic books or books and stuff like that, but not in any that I read. But I mean, it's still a great Star Wars movie and a great movie in general, but it's definitely the worst of the original trilogy.
I would agree. It's the worst of the original. I rated it as insanely good behind A New Hope.
Okay.
On my end. I don't think it's as good as A New Hope. However, I still don't think, if I'm looking at the movies, I still don't know if any other movie's better than it. Any of the remaining movies is better than that, in my opinion. I agree that Ewoks do get a little slow, and the Ewoks fighting the stormtroopers is too comical.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's always been the joke that stormtroopers, like, they couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat. But, I mean, they have to have some component of stormtroopers be able to take on these primitive beings that have sticks and stones
that are a couple feet high at most.
and have tripwires. Like that. I will always remember that one scene where the stormtrooper gets like knocked off the speeder bike and he's on the ground and he gets piled on by like 7 Ewoks, and you're like, doesn't he just throw them off of him and he stands up and shoots them all in the head? But like but the film makes it seem like, oh, the Ewoks took care of him because there's more of them. I'm like, yeah, but each Ewok weighs 30 pounds and he can just stand up and like
brush them off.
Like in The Mandalorian, they kind of show you how like mass-produced the armor was. Once you got to that point where everything was very brittle and it wasn't as it's armor, but it's not really. You know, it's not. It's faux armor. It's like the clothing the Germans gave, like the head Germans gave the soldiers when they marched to Moscow in World War II. Like, oh, you won't need winter clothes. We'll be in Moscow by November. That didn't happen. So yeah, it's kind of like that. But God, yeah, it's just too comical that these Ewoks and then are able to overpower these stormtroopers, no matter how few there are, and then Ewoks and Chewbacca somehow get into an ATST.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But still, besides that, I think the initial Jabba Palace scenes are very good and pretty high tension for how Empire left off, and the ending, was well done. Like,
oh, yeah.
most of the time when you have a movie series, or especially a TV series, and obviously this is a movie, so that doesn't really apply here. But I mean, they normally mess up the ending more than they make it good.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, just off the top of my head, Dexter, horrible.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Oh, well, Game of Thrones was just pure incompetency by the 2 idiots. But How I Met Your Mother, like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's How I Met Your Mother, and guess what? She dies of cancer later. Ha ha ha. And they're like, oh, just don't go date Robin because she's single now. Like, that's horrible. Just horrible. But yes, Return of the Jedi ties it all together, and it is the perfect way to end that trilogy. And if you look at it in the broader sense, it is a perfect way to end the Anakin saga of the first 6. It's the way it ties it all together, the way it ends, and yes, it's just well done, and it works.
Yeah.
But again, it's not as entertaining as the first two, but it's definitely a solid Star Wars movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah, with like the ending and like the symbolism when Luke cuts off Darth Vader's hand and then he looks at his own robotic hand and like all the symbolism there, and even going back to episode 5, the symbolism like in the cave and all the stuff on Dagobah. I think the original trilogy probably does like the best with symbolism compared to any other Star Wars movie.
I mean,
If there is really any symbolism in all the other Star Wars movies.
I mean, I hate sand. It's so coarse and rough.
All right, so that's the original trilogy. I mean, I figured we'd end up in that order, but I wasn't sure where you were going to put Return of the Jedi compared to the rest.